Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is about that time. It is time for NFL picks for week number 2, 2021. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. UncClaude here with a brand new batch of NFL picks for week number 2 of 2021. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Thank you so much for joining me. As you come into the room, please hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. And if you were rocking with me last week, I did pretty decent. My record last week was 9-7, which will be better than a lot of you guys' teams. But I digress. Yeah, my Steelers actually hurt my record. I was wrong for picking against them, and I hate doing that, to be quite honest with you. But I thought Buffalo was going to come out at home, but my Pittsburgh Steelers did the job last week. And you know what? That 9-7 is not terrible. I'll take it. But I want to improve on it. So we will start that here in week number 2. And first up will be tonight's game, featuring the New York Football Giants going up against the Washington Football Team. I really hate saying that. I mean, obviously, I'm used to them being known as a different type of name, which I will not say because, let's face it, they look for every little thing, ladies and gentlemen, to try and mess with my channel. Now, the Redskins, in my opinion, it was almost addition by subtraction because Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a good quarterback. Now, he got hurt, and he might be out for quite some time. In fact, his career might be over with that hip injury. And Tyler Heineke, who actually had some success playing in the playoffs last year, even though they didn't win, but they gave Brady all they could muster in that playoff game against Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he is well equipped to take on the New York Football Giants. The Giants played another terrible football game. They were abysmal. I really thought that they would be a dark horse favorite maybe. But Denver and Teddy Bridgewater did basically what they wanted to do with the New York Giants. And you know what? Daniel Jones is exactly who he is. He is a terrible quarterback. He will always be a terrible quarterback. He gives the other team just as many opportunities to score as his own team. And he was the guy who was supposed to cut down on the mistakes that Eli was making the last few years of Eli's career. And this guy's been worse. Saquon Barkley was basically a no-show. I mean, their receivers are pretty good. Sterling Shepard scored a touchdown. I mean, this guy just doesn't get it done. Daniel Jones, what a waste. And the coach, my God, I thought that Judge would do a much better job than that. For him not to realize that he was out of timeouts, really? I mean, excuse me, that he didn't need to throw the challenge flag. Remember every touchdown and every play is going to be reviewed in the last 2 minutes of the game, and every scoring play is reviewed. There was no need to throw a challenge flag. And that's exactly what Joe Judge did. Cost his team a timeout. Obviously, it didn't cost him the game because the game was never in doubt. Now, normally the Giants play pretty well in Washington. But I believe that the Washington, even though Heineke's a backup and he's young and he hasn't started as many games as Daniel Jones, I do believe that the Redskins believe more in Tyler Heineke than at this stage the Giants do of Daniel Jones. And I'm going to go Washington 24, New York Giants 20 because of that. Now, the next game coming up will be the Las Vegas Raiders, who won a game by the skin of their teeth, and they will head in to Heinz Field to take on my Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a very convincing win last week against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Now, the Raiders have given the Steelers a lot of fits over these last few years. I mean, it's been a while since the Steelers have beaten. I remember about 4 years ago when the Steelers lost a terrible game against the then Oakland Raiders. And that turned out to be one of the games that kept the Steelers out of the playoffs. And that's when we still had Big Ben and Antonio Brown. And James Conner was the lead running back. But I digress. Derek Carr played very well. And he normally does play well. But I tell you, that defense is still not very good. And I don't know if he'll ever get it fixed. I tell you, John Gruden has done. He's 7-9, 500. I mean, he hasn't made the playoffs once with this team. He's just not good. He's the most overrated coach, in my opinion, in all of the NFL. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin just continues to win. And listen, the old Steeler mantra in the mid-'70s was whatever it takes. And that was what Chuck Noll said. That was the 75 season. And if you remember this, well, probably not. I mean, I'm a little long in the tooth, ladies and gentlemen. But that 75 Steeler team was probably the most physically gifted Steeler team that ever played. Now, the 78 team to me was better. The competition was better anyway. And that's when you started seeing the rules changes and things of that nature. Of course, the Mel Blount rule where you can't chuck them past 5 yards. It opened up the passing game for Bradshaw, Swan, and Stallworth. And now Franco was not the same running back. He was a decent running back. But in 75, he was a great running back. Now, John Stallworth was injured in 75. But Lynn Swan was probably the best receiver in football in 75, and he capped it off winning the MVP of the Super Bowl. And those are catches that we still see on any given Sunday, any given Super Bowl Sunday, trust me. But meanwhile, he's supposed to be not in the Hall of Fame. He's overrated, but I'll be doing a video on that later on in the week. The Raiders are definitely a high-powered offense. Josh Jacobs, a good running back. Their offensive line is decent, and they have a wonderful tight end. The Steelers are going to have fits with that. We have always had fits against great tight ends. That's a problem. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Ben actually was very efficient. I was very pleased with the way he played. We still can't run the football enough, in my opinion, and we're going to have to run it a lot better in order for us to be a championship caliber football team. And I do believe that Najee Harris will have a better game than he had last week. Deontay Johnson still has a lot of the drops, and that's the thing about Deontay Johnson. He'll make the spectacular catch, and he'll drop an easy one or two. Juju Smith-Schuster. Hey, what's going on, Third Ward Colombian? How's everything? I appreciate it. Just a moment. Yes, good brother. But I'm going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna get there soon enough, Third Ward brother. I'm gonna get there soon enough. But going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, listen, we have to run the football a lot better. Our offensive line actually played a lot better than I expected. Yeah, and I'm afraid that's what might happen to them. I do believe the Ravens, they're going to have their problems, man. Their offensive line is not good, and they picked up the Steelers' ex-left tackle. They slide him over to right tackle, Villanueva. And if you saw Monday night, he was getting ate up, man. He cannot guard a speed rusher. He can't do it. Any speed off the edge, he always gets beat. Trust me. I've seen enough of him to know he is not that good. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And the reason I did it was I'm wearing a Pro Bowl jersey. Oh, shit. I'm wearing the Pro Bowl jersey. There's a back in the day joint. And if you notice, it's a Steeler. It's Hines Ward, number 86. I don't know. I got a little Wi-Fi in there. I'm wearing a Hines Ward joint, and it matches the colors and shit. You know, that's a Harlem thing, man. I'm trying to get the AFC hat to really match it. I didn't want to wear the Steeler hat because it really, even though it's a Steeler patch on it, it obviously does not match. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. Listen, I can't be caught slipping on these here YouTube streets, man. But getting back to the game, you know where I'm going. Now, I picked against the Steelers last week. That's one thing. I'm very objective. I'm very fair. Even when it comes to my football team, I'm not going to pick against them this week. And the Steelers are due for a victory against the Raiders. It is time for the Steelers to get that win. Steelers 30, Raiders 24 in that particular matchup. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I told people that they were going to win. I picked it perfect last week as far as both teams. The 49ers, I thought, would win more convincingly, and the game was really over. They made it a little funny at the end, but they came up with the victory. Trey Lance threw his first touchdown pass. Garoppolo was solid. Now, they had some bad news. The leading running back, Mostert, will be out for the season as far as San Francisco is concerned. That's a huge, huge injury. Philadelphia, I said that they would win their game. That was an upset special to some. I don't know why. Atlanta's not a good football team. And, I mean, let's face it. Matt Ryan, is he a decent quarterback? Yes. He's not a quarterback that's going to overcome other players' mistakes. He's just not. And really never was. Now, this is going to be the dreaded West Coast going to the East Coast playing at 1 o'clock. Now, the first game of the season, everybody's on the same time. The second game of the season, well, you know what it is. I believe that it's going to be a very close game. But I think the way that Jalen Hurts is playing, and Jalen Hurts has played very, very well. And I believe that Miles Sanders, they're going to run the ball enough. So, and Garoppolo's not one of those guys who's going to win a shootout anyway. But I think the Eagles' defense is going to make enough plays. It's going to come down to a field goal. I like the Eagles over the 49ers in a mild upset, 27-24. Again, it's a mild upset as far as I'm concerned. Next up, the Houston Texans. I really thought that Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville would play better against Houston and Tyrod Taylor. But now they go into Cleveland to face the Browns. That was a tough loss that Cleveland had against Kansas City. They were right up in it, and then Baker Mayfield did what Baker Mayfield does and threw the game away. I mean, they were physically beating up Kansas City, and Baker Mayfield actually had played pretty well, to be quite honest. He really did. But You cannot keep that team. They're too explosive. They have just too many weapons. There's no answer for Travis Kelce. There's really no answer for Tyreek Hill. And I can't stand Pat Mahomes, but he is a great quarterback. He has such a release. Listen, they remind me almost of the Greatest Show on Turf back in the day with Marshall Faulk, of course, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. They had too many weapons. And when you have a team like that, and you have a quarterback that can throw the ball all over the lot like Mahomes does, and Mahomes does have elite arm strength, they're almost impossible. It's like you can't stop them, you can only contain them. That's another deal. I think that Trevor Lawrence is not as great as everybody is making him out to be. I've been saying that Deshaun Watson was much better in college, not even close. They're trying to build him up like Peyton Manning. I think that Justin Fields and Trey Lance will be as good, if not better, than Trevor Lawrence. I think their stats will all be comparable. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to win a champ. Now, they might build around him. I'm pretty sure they will. See, that's the difference. Urban Meyer will build around Trevor Lawrence. I do believe that Chicago and Justin Fields has a chance to win right now. And if I'm Matt Nagy, I would put in Justin. If Andy Dalton struggles, and remember they play Andy Dalton's old team, the Bengals. If Dalton struggles early, I would bring in Justin Fields quick. And I mean quick. Because Dalton is only a stopgap guy. You want to infuse some type of enthusiasm in the locker room. You want to do that. And they know that this kid is the future. And they are a win now. Listen, Chicago's a win now team. Khalil Mack is not going to go around talking about, oh, listen, I got 2 or 3 years. Khalil Mack is in his prime right now. He is not going to wait. So you want to get Justin Fields in there. Now, he has to learn how to protect himself. So I didn't have a problem with him sitting last week, especially against that man. Aaron Donald could end his career. Okay? So I understand not playing him in that game. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals defense is not terrible, but it's not the Rams defense. So for Justin Fields to come in, even in the second half of that game, if Andy Dalton is struggling, I understand it. But we'll see. But going back to the Browns-Texans, listen, Cleveland's going to get some get back. I understand. Listen, that was a big win for Houston. That might be Houston's only win for a while, okay? I have the Browns winning that game 34-20. And I believe that, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is going to run for 85 yards plus each, and Baker Mayfield is going to throw for at least 3 touchdowns. And listen, I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan by any stretch, but he definitely is a great thrower of the football. And listen, that offensive line, the Cleveland Browns have probably the best offensive line in all of pro football. And that's including Tampa Bay's. That offensive line, that is a great pass blocking offensive line, and it is a tremendous run blocking offensive line. I mean, the Steelers need to look at that blueprint of that offensive line and build it just like that. And the Steelers did have that for a while with Pouncey and DeCastro until DeCastro got old. Yeah, that the NFL definitely, you have to be able to run the football at the quarterback position. You cannot be a stand, drop back quarterback. I remember back in the day, you had guys just stand there and look one. No, you have to be mobile. You have to be able to run around and play the quarterback position in the NFL right now. But next up will be the Denver Broncos, and a lot of people, and I thought that they would lose last week. They're going to take on the aforementioned Jaguars. You know what? There's rumors right now that Urban Meyer is looking at an exit plan. Now, he's trying to quell the rumors right now by saying that, listen, I just got here. I'm here for the long haul. But trust me, Urban Meyer is already feeling the jitters. And trust me, if Urban Meyer had waited, that USC job opened up. Clay Helton got fired. USC got drubbed against Stanford last week. And the Trojans are looking for a head coach. If Urban Meyer hadn't taken that Jacksonville job, he would be front and center ready for that job in Southern California. Because you talk about one of the high octane jobs in all of college football, that USC job is a job that you want. There are 4 jobs you want in college football. You want the Notre Dame job, obviously the Alabama job, the USC job is another one. Right, it's almost to the point. Back in the day, the Miami job was one that you wanted. Florida State ruined theirs, but you still might want it. But I mean, you talk about college football heaven. Ohio State, that's another job that you want. But those are Texas, not anymore. And there used to be a time where the Longhorns were a big deal. They still are a big deal, but Texas hasn't won in so long, not since that Vince Young game, and that's the greatest game in college football history. That Vince Young game actually, it is crazy because that game actually messed up both schools, because soon after that, that's when Pete Carroll went to Seattle. That ended the USC dynasty. And after that, Mac Brown retired, Vince Young went to the pros, and Texas has never been the same. So both college institutions have never been the same after that Rose Bowl and that national championship game. But, and Texas is a job that you want from a coaching perspective, but if you saw, look what happened with Charlie Strong, look what happened with Herman. It has eaten those coaches alive because those coaches, they're not ready. You need almost a failure NFL coach that can go there, or a coach that's a so-so NFL coach to go to Texas. Michigan is another job that you will want to, but Harbaugh is trying to mess that up. But boy, I tell you, he wants out of that. He wants out of that deal right now. And I tell you what, yeah, I tell you, the Eric Bieniemy thing makes sense. Eric Bieniemy, first of all, Eric Bieniemy should be a coach in the NFL. But we already know how that works because, as you notice, Lovie Smith couldn't get a job in the NFL, had to go to Illinois where, let's face it, he did not do well at the University of Illinois. But Eric Bieniemy should be coaching in the NFL. He should have gotten a chance already, but that would not be a bad job for him to take out there at USC. I don't know if you remember, Eric Bieniemy actually was a running back for the University of Colorado. And he played before Cordell Stewart got there. But that was about that's like 30 some odd years ago. I know that's my that's my generation. Now, Texas is going to pay big money because football is so big. College football is so big down there. They're so big, and they are thirsty for a champion. They are thirsty for one. I mean, I remember when Texas. I mean, I remember the Earl Campbell years, man. That's how old I am. But that's a see, man. You making me go back there like three yards in a cloud of dust. But I like what Bridgewater did last week against the Giants. And Bridgewater is a very solid quarterback. And I tell you what, see, Trevor Lawrence had to play right now. I mean, that team was starving for a number one, but Bridgewater would have been a very solid guy for him to sit back and watch for 1 year, or even a Tyrod Taylor. Because I think that was a huge mistake getting rid of Gardner Minshew. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, or a player for that matter. Once they traded Minshew and handed the keys over to Trevor Lawrence with no competition, you told your team, we're playing for 2023, 2024, because you knew the Jaguars were not going to win right now. And you really alienated a lot of those veterans once you did that. They should have held on to Minshew at least for this season, or at least hold on till about week 3 or 4 when the trades needed to start. But listen, it would be interesting to see how the Broncos do if they got one of those guys. And I tell you what, I know it's how you put in Aaron Rodgers. I get it. And Aaron, it looks like Aaron Rodgers is trying to play his way out of Green Bay. I would just put it like that. And the way he played last week, you can make a case that is what he's trying to do. And speaking of which, I tell you what, I was just saying up front, Jameis Winston, it was good to see last week. It was. It was good. Good for me to see old Jameis Winston play well and beat the brakes off of the Green Bay Packers. I did pick the Packers to win, but I thought it would be a close game. I thought it would be a shootout. I didn't know it was going to be a blowout. I mean, I knew that Jameis was going to play well. I didn't think he was going to play 5 touchdowns and no picks well, but I knew he was going to play well. And I knew that he definitely had the weapons at his disposal. I did not expect the Green Bay Packers to score 3 points. I mean, if he plays like this week against the Detroit Lions, then you really have to look at Aaron Rodgers is just tanking and trying to get out of there. And I don't know if he is or not. I mean, would I be shocked? Absolutely not. But the Carolina Panthers had a good win last week against the Jets. I figured that Darnold was going to do his thing, but I figured it would be a close game, and it was. But I'm going to pick the Saints again. I listen. I wouldn't be shocked if the Saints turned around. I don't think they will beat the Bucks this season. I just don't. But could they beat them? Absolutely. Now, I could see them splitting. I could see the Saints and Bucks splitting their games this year. But I think that Tampa Bay is a much better altogether football team. Listen, him sitting down a year helped him because he didn't have that luxury at Tampa Bay. Now, also part of the reason that they did that too. See, Tampa Bay, their defense wasn't as good when they went all in for Tom Brady. They built the team around him. With Jameis, even though, Bruce Arians is a decent offensive coach. He is one of the best. But he doesn't have patience. And when you're a young quarterback and your offensive, listen, he did not have the offensive line that Brady's got. So a lot of times Winston was running for his life. And that's part of the reason why he threw those picks. Because it was Mike Evans, Godwin, and Cameron Braith. I mean, when you look at Tom Brady, he's got those two guys, Braith, O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski. He's got Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. I mean, Winston, a lot of this was on Winston too, because you can't make those turnovers. But Tom Brady has a much better offensive line than Jameis Winston has. And the defense is not even close. The defense that Tampa Bay has now, Jameis Winston has never had that defense. Never. And it's all about how you build around your franchise quarterback. He did not have the stability that Brady has. But that's also why you're a number one pick of the team. Now, the next game is the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Rams. They will be at home again. The Colts lost a bad game last week against the Eagles. I thought they were going to lose it. I don't trust Carson Wentz. I mean, no, that wasn't against who did they play? I forgot who the Colts played. Just a moment. Just 1 second. The Seattle Seahawks. I apologize. I knew Russell Wilson and those guys were going to win that game. Normally, I would pick the Rams, but I think coming off of a short week and having to travel to Indianapolis, and they're going to have to play that 1 o'clock game, that's a problem for these West Coast teams. And the Rams played well, no question about it. And listen, would I be shocked if they beat the Colts? Absolutely not. And I'm not a Carson Wentz guy, but I know that the Colts cannot. See, the difference is the Rams can go 1-1 and they can run the table. The Colts go 0-2. They're shot. And I don't think that Carson Wentz and Frank Reich can escape that. Because they have to make the playoffs this year. They don't make the playoffs this year, their goose is cooked. Because you got Carson Wentz just for the fact that you're supposed to be playoff, if not Super Bowl contenders. Especially after losing Phillip Rivers. And Rivers had a good year last year. To be honest, they should have tried to talk him back into it and give him they could have gave him a couple more dollars. The Rams, top to bottom, should be the biggest threat to the Bucks. I tell you what, the biggest threat to Tampa Bay could be the New Orleans Saints, because they're in the same division. They know they'll more than likely be in the playoffs, and they're not afraid of them. They are not afraid. I would not be. Now listen, I picked the Rams. I picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to do well in the regular season, but I picked the Rams to go. I picked the Chiefs Rams for the Super Bowl. Now, I hope I'm wrong, of course, because I'm a Steeler fan. I want the Steelers to go every year. But I think the Rams have the formula on how to beat Tampa Bay. But I also think New Orleans does too. If Jameis is consistent, now I don't expect him to go 5 touchdowns and 0 picks. If he gives you a 3-to-1 race, if Jameis gives you a 3-to-1 ratio touchdowns to interceptions, and he's healthy, and the Saints defense stays healthy, I believe that the Saints are a bigger threat. Because I don't trust Matthew Stafford in a big spot. Now, you can say the same thing about Jameis Winston, and that's a fair point. But I trust Sean Payton more than I trust that McVay coach. I don't trust that McVay coach at all. You saw how he stuck up the Super Bowl last a couple of years back. So, and Sean Payton does have a ring on his finger. So I definitely will go with that. Now the next game I have up is the Buffalo Bills, and I'm so happy that the Steelers beat them. That put the rest of the NFL on notice that the Steeler defense is still alive and kicking. Now, the Dolphins won a very close game last week, and that's a game that they had no business winning, as far as I'm concerned. Tua does not impress me. He just doesn't. I'm sorry. And I know that Trevor Lawrence is held at a higher esteem than Tua, but to me, Tua, everybody talks about how he's supposed to be the next Drew Brees. I don't see it. I just don't. He's not as accurate as Drew Brees. I just don't think he's as good. Josh Allen got knocked back to earth by that Steelers defense, didn't they? The running game is pretty decent, and that Singletary guy is a good running back. But I tell you what, Miami has a decent secondary. It's not a great secondary. But they do have a physical enough front seven. But I do believe Buffalo, knowing that they have to win to stay pace, they're supposed to be the class of the division. They can't let the Dolphins go 2-0. I can see a logjam in that AFC East. It's going to be a close game in Miami, but I'm going to go Buffalo 27, Miami 20 in that. Next up is the aforementioned New England Patriots. They are going to take on the Jets. The Patriots, that was a tough way to lose. But I think they will learn from that game. Mac Jones, actually, he played pretty decent. I mean, he played about as well as Tua. I'm just not a Tua fan. I'm not. I tell you what. One thing I have to say about this Jets that quarterback, he's got an arm, man. Oh my goodness. That's Zach. I see why they chose him. Now, to me, the Jets should have gotten to Justin Fields. I would have chosen him myself. The fact that he fell to Chicago is an absolute joke to me. And if I were a Chicago Bears fan, I would be ecstatic because they haven't had a quarterback like that. But I see why they chose him. His arm strength is outstanding. And you know what? He reads the defenses pretty well. He's going to be a star. I think the Jets actually have done it right this particular time. That was a terrible injury. The left tackle, Mekhi Becton, will more than likely be. I don't know if you saw that game where he got carted off. That was. The offensive line is not great as it is. And this guy is a solid left tackle. And when you take him out of the equation, and he was running for his life as it was last week, he's got no shot. I agree with that wholeheartedly. They are stupid if they don't get Deshaun Watson. They are absolute fools. And I tell you what, the Jets could have gotten Deshaun Watson, but because of what's going on, and I believe it's a witch hunt. And they did that to stop Deshaun Watson from getting his money. Because it's funny how this came out after he said he wanted out of Houston. We all know what's up. It is disgusting. But what do you expect? Mac Jones, both of these guys are the real deal. But I'm going to pick the Patriots. Not because of Belichick, just because the Patriots are top to bottom a better team right now than the Jets. But I have to give the Jets credit. I think they are building things in the right direction. The Jets are going to win 6-7 games this year. They're not going to be as terrible as they were last year. They're not going to be an automatic beat down as they were last year. They have the right coaching staff and players. They just need to sprinkle in more talent. But I do believe the Jets are actually doing things the right way for a change. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals go into Soldier Field to take on the Bears. Now, I know Andy Dalton is the starter right now, and I understand why. If Andy Dalton plays like he played last week, you have to put in Justin Fields. You got to put him in. Listen, he has the weapons around him. I mean, Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, those are very good receivers. Montgomery's a very good running back. We know the defense is ready. This is a championship-ready football team. And I tell you what, that's a dark horse Super Bowl football team, because I don't know anybody who wants to face a Khalil Mack. And remember, they beat Tampa Bay last year with a terrible quarterback in Trubisky. Think about that. They beat, and I mean, they didn't just beat Tampa Bay. They beat up Tampa Bay. If Justin Fields gives you a 2-to-1 ratio, listen, that's a dark horse team. You think anybody wants to go into Soldier Field in January? I don't think so. I'm going to listen. This is on the basis that Justin Fields replaces Opie Dalton, because Opie Dalton stinks. But either way, I like the Bears. The Bengals got their win, and I like Joe Burrow too. Joe Burrow's an excellent quarterback. And he's going to be a very good quarterback for years to come. But I think this Fields kid is going to be a tremendous quarterback. I really do. I like his toughness. I like his intangibles. I tell you what, he's the perfect kid for Chicago. He is. He has a chance to be a megastar. He really, really does. And I know Trey Lance, they're saying he has more upside, and he might. But I think Justin Fields, there's just something about this kid. I like the kid. It grew on me because at first I couldn't stand him. When he was with Georgia, I couldn't stand him. But it clicked at Ohio State. It really did. So I'm going Bears 30, Bengals 27. That's going to be a shootout game. Now, next up, the Tampa Bay Bucks stay at home to take on the Atlanta Falcons. They're the same old Falcons. They have one of the worst defensive teams in the NFL. I mean, they'll keep you close. They don't have Julio anymore, and they were losing with Julio Jones. That tight end is a star. That Pitts is a star. He's going to be one of those guys mentioned like Tony Gonzalez, Kellen Winslow, Shannon Sharp. He's that good. He has a chance to be better than those guys. Yeah, I said it. Too bad Matt Ryan is the one slinging the football. And their running game is not great either. It's not bad. It's not great. I mean, Mike Davis was good with the Panthers, but that offensive line, it's a pass block. It's not a great run blocking offensive line. And even then, I mean, they're just not. Their defense is so abysmal. Brady's going to carve them up. Now, they're going to keep close with Tampa, because Tampa Bay got exposed in that secondary. And Atlanta can expose it. I mean, Matt Ryan's not a terrible quarterback. And it's a division game. Atlanta's going to keep it close, but I believe Tampa Bay is going to get it. I like Tampa Bay 34-27 over the Falcons. Because Tampa Bay's defense, it's pretty good. And we know Atlanta's not going to run the football like Dallas tried. And You talk about, oh man, Ezekiel Elliott is done. But we'll get to that a little bit later when I get to the Dallas Cowboy portion of this segment. Because if you saw last Thursday game, Ezekiel Elliott is shot. And he looked like Evander Holyfield Saturday, but that's another story. Next up, another impressive team from last week, the Arizona Cardinals. They were outstanding. They beat the brakes off of the Tennessee Titans. And they take on the Minnesota Vikings at home. Now, the Vikings, and that was my upset special, and I was right. Kirk Cousins, he's just not a great quarterback. He just isn't. His stats look pretty. And Darwin Cook is a wonderful running back. Wonderful running back. They have all the weapons in place. They have the weapons. They have the defense. They have everything in place, but I'm telling you, they have tuned out Mike Zimmer. And Mike Zimmer is a good defensive coordinator, and he actually did a pretty decent job as the Minnesota Viking head coach. He has. But after a while, they tune you out, especially when you haven't won anything. And he hasn't won anything. And you can only put up with this guy for so long. I think Mike Zimmer is going to be one of those guys, either in the middle of the season or at the end of the season. He's going to walk the plank if they don't turn this around quick. And I don't see this thing turning around. He's going to be hovering around 500. That's who he is and what he is. Because Kirk Cousins is not going to take you to that next level. They thought he was that guy. He's never been that guy. And he's going to show you once again. Now, Kyler Murray is that guy. He has elevated that team to another level. And Chandler Jones last week, man. And that Viking offensive line is not good. He might get another 3 sacks this week to go along with the 5 he got last week. It's going to be a shootout. But I'll take Kyler Murray in a shootout every day of the week against this clown quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Arizona 31, Vikings 28 in that one. And next up, the Tennessee Titans, man. You talk about another clown quarterback. Ryan Tannehill stinks. And now his offensive line was supposed to be good. They got destroyed. And now they take on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Will Derrick Henry have another terrible game? I don't think so. But that Tennessee defense, man, they got carved up. And Kyler Murray is a young quarterback at the cusp of being great. Russell Wilson is great and has been great for a long time. And he showed you how great he was again last week. And he's going to show you again this week. There's no mystery in this one. And it's like, how do you want it? Do you want it the slow way or you want it the quick way? They're going to beat him up and beat him down. I love Seattle in this game, 27-17, and I'm being generous on that one. And I know the Titans don't want to start out 0-2. I don't see how they won't start out 0-2. They gave away that game last week, and they're going to get beat up in Seattle. Now comes the part where I'm going to beat up on those Dallas Cowboys. Listen, it is time for the Cowboys to think about trading Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, I said it. Now, the sad part is nobody's going to want to take that sorry contract. You're paying Prescott a whole lot of money. You're paying Zeke a whole lot of money for the running back position. Now, the only good thing is his contract is not so terrible. You can get rid of it. That DeMarcus Lawrence injury hurt the Cowboys bad. The Cowboys defense wasn't great, but they turned over the Tampa Bay Bucks 3 times. Don't worry, Third Ward. Don't worry. Soon comes, Star. That was a gut check victory that they had against the Redskins, the Chargers. And and I tell you what, that Washington defense, that front four is outstanding. But Justin Herbert showed toughness. He stayed in there all day. He's going to be in another shootout. Trust me. And it will be indicated on the score. Because that Dallas defense is terrible on the back end. Now, Dak is going to hold up his end of the bargain. The sad part is so is Justin Herbert. Herbert has more weapons. Yeah, I said it. At this stage of the game, Austin Eckler is better than Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is done. I mean, you talk about a burnt-out running back. He's burnt out, man. I love the Chargers here, 34-31 over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, on the Sunday night matchup, the Baltimore Ravens at home taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Lamar Jackson had to run for his life, and he's going to do that a lot this season because they have, outside of the left tackle Stanley, who's very good, they have a terrible offensive line. Marshall Yanda retiring really hurt, and hurt bad. And the right tackle used to be the Steelers' left tackle from last year, and that's Alejandro Villanueva. He was decent for a number of years. He was never great. I don't understand how he made the Pro Bowl the years he made it, because I'm so used to seeing him getting whiffed. Every speed rusher beats him, and they killed him Monday night. And the Chiefs have a terrible defense, but the Chiefs know how to go after that quarterback. Now, the Chiefs won that game last week without Tyrann Mathieu. Matthew's back this week. Lamar Jackson really has one go-to target, and that's that tight end Andrews. And he's decent. But that Ravens defense is just not great anymore. Heck, it's not even good. Let the Raiders go up in you like that, please. The Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have a decent offense, but they shouldn't have been like that. Now, the Ravens want to get back against Kansas City also. I don't see it happening. Now, it's going to be a tough game, but I like the Chiefs here 30-27 on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a nip and tuck game, but I have to go with the better overall team, and I think right now Mahomes and the Chiefs are better. They just are. I don't think the Ravens are going to have problems. That offensive line is bad. And finally is the Monday night game. The Green Bay Packers had probably the worst performance of any NFL team. And I mean all of them. I mean, that was ridiculous how bad Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers defense looked. Now, Detroit actually had climbed back into that game near the end. But if you are supposed to be an NFL championship contender like Green Bay is supposed to be, you made the NFC championship game last year. You were within an eyelash of winning. You cannot put up back-to-back terrible performances. And I expect them to win in a big way. Listen, if they lose this game, then they need to investigate Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I said it. Aaron Rodgers plays this bad in week number 2, then you know he's forcing his way out. Man, we might see Jordan Love in a Packer uniform quicker than you thought. But I'm going to go here, Packers 34, Lions 20. There's going to be a lot of get back in this Monday night game. This could get ugly by the third quarter. If it doesn't, they're going to have to take a long look at not just Aaron Rodgers, but that LaFleur head coach, because he hasn't done anything special either. And those are my picks for week 2 of 2021 in the National Football League. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, share, and subscribe. UncleClaude signing out. Take care. God bless and stay safe, everyone.